Horrific Network Entertainment. Welcome to another episode of Moderating the Moderators. We are your Sinister Creature Con panel moderation team, and if this is your first episode, I encourage you to go back to watch or listen to the debut episode that we did with CJ Graham, the panel from 2018. But if this is your first episode and you have no idea who we are, let me introduce ourselves. I am Jimmy. I am your panel director of Sinister Creature Con, Northern California's, in my humble opinion, best convention. We feature horror, science fiction, cosplay, special effects, makeup demonstrations, the whole 9 yards for you to come to Sacramento and get your freak on, as I do twice a year with these lovely people with me in the panel room. Starting to my right, Mr. Charlie Williams. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Jim.
Right
good
below
to see you guys again.
Right below him, the one, the only Jaye of many hats.
Hello, hello.
Right next to him, we got our diamond in the rough of the three of us. Ashlei from Higby Horror Hunt. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Sorry if you see me look off or jump up. I got the kiddo here tonight. But here to do what we got to do, and let's talk about these panels.
Awesome. So this is also 2018. And the reason why I picked this one to follow the CJ Graham one is because in 2023, cult classics, or 2024, I should say, cult classics sure do feel like a theme of some of the guests that we have this year. We got J.L. Gilbert, the voice of Sweet Tooth and Lex Luthor. We've got Casper Van Dyne from Starship Troopers. We got Darren from Trolls 2. We got just a lot of these films represented that have very niche fandoms. And man, are the fandoms that they are coming from passionate, which we love to see in the panel room. We'd much rather see passionate fans in the panel room than hear crickets, 1,000%. And the panel that we're going to talk about today is another cult classic, because this was one that revolutionized film, where Blair Witch Project revolutionized film for found footage. Paranormal Activity took that ball and ran with it by using not only handheld cam, but security cam footage. I had never seen anything like it before at the time. And this was truly, in my opinion, scarier than the Blair Witch. The execution was terrifying. And it was one of those franchises that the story evolved throughout it. If you stuck around that franchise till the end, you saw those sisters' story evolve. And even when you didn't think that there was any way impossible that they were going to tie it back into the original, they found a way to. Jaye,
I think some other franchises learned from how Paranormal did it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because not to spoil anything, but the last Friday Final Destination film, when it tied back, the way that it tied back felt very much like the ha-ha, this happened right before the first one you saw.
Yeah.
That you see in Paranormal.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So let's go back, I should say, to Sinister Creature Con 2018. Jaye is moderating the Paranormal Activity panel.
Featherston, and from Paranormal 2 and 3, Sprague, Grayden.
Look at that. That's like two of me.
You are here, I believe. I don't know if Sprague is right next to you.
All right.
One of those.
I
Welcome.
gotta
welcome.
say, I am gonna rate the hat.
Thank you for being on Sinister Creature
That
Con.
is
Just
one of
very
my
excited to get to
mid-level
talk to either one
hats,
of
I
you.
would say.
I know all of this
I'd give it a
wonderful group
5
as
out of
well.
10.
I think we need to just
5 out of
start with
10. That's hard.
I think that's a
how
5
in
out
the
of 10
world
hat.
in this day and age did a small little film like this.
Jay, what
suddenly
was
show up on
your
doorstep
first
and
Well, then you
impression?
better bring a 10 out of 10 hat
could
to
go
this
as far
June.
as it did.
I don't know if you're ready for a 10 out of 10, Ashley.
We never really foresaw what would
My
happen.
impression was so.
I was my first
I
year out in
remember
LA,
I
and
was
got
in the
the
middle
audition
of
off of the casting,
prepping
no reps, no
just
manager, no
for
anything, and
Katie.
found the audition, and I
Mhm.
pitched
And
it
then
special. I could tell
it
the
was
director
very
like,
shortly
very
before
serious about what he was
the
doing. It seemed
con
fun, and so I
that
auditioned.
you informed me
And
that
I got the
Sprague
call
was
back, and then,
Sprague was
you know, a month or
also
two
going to
later,
be on the
we
panel.
filmed for a week in San Diego,
Mhm.
and
So then I
2
got
weeks
to
later,
play
I was
around with a lot of the questions of sisterhood.
It's
The
like the
idea
most
of there was
concise
already an
way I've ever
iconic
said
character, and now you're being
Arduous
added
process.
to the lore of that
And
character,
then
and it
you come
has to
in
be a
panel
direct
2,
connection.
correct?
And
Yes,
so
and
to
it
get
was
to
a-
interview
it
the
was a
sisters, I
very
was like,
different
that's even more
process.
exciting. So I threw out like half my questions for Katie alone, just to start focusing on that.
because the show had
Yeah.
been. I mean, your movie had been kind of a massive hit by that point.
Aren't one of
when they
these
started putting together
ladies,
Paranormal
or
I
they
mean, it was,
were
like,
at
right
least
after
at the
first
time
one
of
came
this,
out, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do a
attached
sequel,"
to
and then I don't know when they
somebody
cast them, but
from
it was-
Leslie
I'd
Vernon?
been in LA for 8 years.
Attached as in-
actress. I'm that girl in the grocery
Like
store
they
that you
were.
look at.
I thought
and
they
go,
were
Do I
married.
know you?
No.
Did you?
But
Did you
No.
see my cousin? It's
Jim
like, no.
Sprague
No, I
was
just drawing on
was a
everything
good
last night.
friend
What's up?
of the writer
and
of
so
Leslie
David.
Vernon.
I got this really
Okay.
David.
Sprague and David have known each other a long, long time.
Yeah,
I
and
think there's
they
3 or
were
4 movies
they
we think it
were
might be.
attending
Oh, and by the
panels
way, you're gonna
together,
improv
and
the
they
entire
were
time.
interacting
Which,
during
as a
the.
scripted actress, is
Yeah,
not
remember they
During
went
the
to each
entire
other's
convention.
panel or something. Yeah.
If
and
I
then when
remember
got to
correctly, is Sprague one of the ones that is my that
was when I met
I
Katie, and
was
I was like,
their
"Oh,
first
now I know
panel
who it
at a
is."
con ever.
And I got
I think so.
It may have been.
Sweet. It was
Because
very
I
well
and
done.
I
So
she
that
probably
was
brings
how
it
I
up.
got
I
there.
can't
Now,
remember,
not
but
to give
or
you
it might have
the
been something we talked
audition
about before. But I
process in
remember
improv, and
I
read
like the
that there was a lot of
costumer
improv
from
on
Nightmare on
the
Elm
first
Street
one. Did that
3. When I
continue
talked to
throughout the
him,
franchise for both of you,
he had
or
never done
was that
a
just solely
panel
in the
before,
first couple of projects?
Yeah.
and I've been
Or
lucky enough. I've
am
gotten
I
that a few
misreading that
times.
there was less improv than what I thought.
You know, the thing that's interesting about Sprague too is that she
Warren had a very clear
pops
idea about
up
what he
in
wanted,
almost every
but there was
television
no
show I
dialogue ever
watch.
written.
I
There
mean,
wasn't even
she's
an ending to
she's the
movie
very
at beginning of the
definition of
book.
a
We figured it
working
out as we went along.
character
So we really did
actress
it
in
very
television.
collaboratively, and it was all
That was
high. And
something
And,
that
in my
she
experience, every
she
sequel
talked
that
about
happened
was
after was
the
still rooted
importance
in
of
improvisation, but you know,
moving
when Paramount takes
forward.
over a
That she
movie, it
loved the
becomes
horror
a
genre
bigger
and
thing,
she'd
and there's more
always want to
consideration,
come
so you
back
have
and
to
keep
have some
doing
sort
more.
of,
But
like,
that
structure
the
to
idea
follow
of that
so that
it's
things
no,
get
it's
done. And so
whatever's
it
the
was
next
like,
job.
you know,
It's
an
a
idea that was
job.
outlined,
You
maybe
keep
some
going.
sides that were written,
You know,
but
she
then
had a
mostly written
recurring
down,
role
like,
in
make
the
it our
Sons
own
of
in
Anarchy
order to really honor
Oh, really?
the kind of movie
yes,
we're making.
as
Yeah, I think
Opie's
they were
wife.
creating. I mean,
Kind of a
That's-
dramatic
what was really
storyline.
fascinating was they were trying to
And she
remake
also had a
that
prominent
indie
role
movie
in like
feel within
24
a studio
and
24th,
structure.
yeah.
So
yeah.
it was
I mean,
a fascinating experiment. to
she's
be
earned
part
her
of,
spurs as a
because
character actress,
every
and
day
she
you'd
still
come to
pops
work
up
at 7
when
a.m.
every
and they
once
would
in a while I
say,
go,
"Okay,
"Hey, I
20
met
pages
her,"
written, but we're
when
probably
we're
not gonna
watching
do it.
something on
We're
TV.
probably going to do something
mean,
totally
she's-
different. Are you ready to get in a bikini
You know,
and go to a barbecue? Sure. Why
sweet
not?
person, very nice
So
person to
it was
talk
a
to.
really
Look
it
at
was a
Katie
really
texting
opportunity
on her
to really be on your
phone.
toes, and
Get off your phone,
we
Katie.
were lucky because the cast was.
Hey,
most
Katie
of the
was a
cast
real
was very
sweetheart
prominent.
too.
You know, Molly
I mean,
Hey, it
she
may be
was
the next director for her next film.
It might have been.
Comedian. I am not.
That is true,
A
yeah.
comedian,
Or her
so it
agent.
helped me a
It may
lot.
be
It was
important
the-
business.
But yeah,
It was short
great
on
way
on
to,
just a weird
branch
personal
out
note. So
from
maybe
the kind
that's
of
why she was
structured,
checking her
scripted,
phone.
Or
It was
maybe she
shortly.
has-
It
maybe
was
she has
shortly
kids.
after
You
this that
mentioned
she
the
started on her
ending
Instagram
of
talking about a guy she was dating that I believe she's
you
engaged to
never
or married to
knew
now.
the ending.
Oh,
And
wow.
Famously,
Huh.
we all know.
So
the
it might have have been a new relationship at the time, and come on, we've all done that at work.
I know that they directly affect whether or not.
I'm texting my mom right now.
See?
Two endings. Which one, as an actor, which one did you latch on more to? Which one did you? I mean, everybody knows.
I
the two
definitely
are
like our
correct.
background more now.
I don't have
Oh,
to
yeah.
describe in great
It makes
detail.
it feel very much like it's our show.
So,
I feel like we need to get 2 flags that go on the side of the Sinister sign, the banner that say Horrific Network Podcast, and then, you know, a QR code so people can walk up and get it and they can go back and listen to it.
I love that. What about the table runner that's in front saying Horrific Network Podcast because behind us says Sinister? What about in front of us saying Horrific Network and having the QR code so they can do it right when they're taking pictures of us doing the panel?
Well, I got news for all of you. If you come and visit us in the panel room, we will have, it's not going to be a table runner, but we will have a poster of the next film project that we're going to be working on, as well as all of our information on a postcard with a QR code that will direct you to the archive of all of this.
Which I think
along with all of
Nice.
our,
real life
so there you go.
is the one that
Look at that!
happen, you know,
2 steps ahead.
and stuff that's bad. So I like both of them. It's hard for me to choose, guys.
Charlie, on the last episode, you brought up about
the one
personal
that
moments
Spielberg did help
with some of
though,
these
is
celebrities
continue on the
Oh,
franchise.
yeah.
That way we got-
and creating personal moments.
Now,
And
I've asked this to people
Right.
who have been in.
I'm going to try and
sequels
get through this
in the
without
past.
crying, just because that's who I
How
am.
was it for you when you
so,
already had a
First of
for lack
all,
of
when
a
you
better term,
mentioned,
a family
is there any
environment
point in
in
time
the
that we
film, how was
thought
it for you
while
coming in
watching
as
these
the new
movies
family member?
Well,
we would ever get to
I
talk
actually
to
had
these
kind of a lot
people?
of experience
And
with
I
that.
grew up
tend to-
with
I've been on a
watching
lot of shows where
Sleepaway
I'm in,
Camp
like season 7.
over and over again. It
And
was
I
one of
come
the
in
few
and
movies
these
we
are our new
owned on
families, so
VHS that my brother and I
really
enjoyed
depends on the
together.
project and the kind
Yeah.
of family
And
you're gonna be
my
into,
older
just
brother is
like
not doing
anything
well
in your
now
life. Luckily, this family was
physically,
very welcome and
Oh, I'm sorry to
but
hear
and
that.
they were
he's
very
the one who
welcoming,
introduced me
open,
to
and they were
horror.
very
And so the
very
idea
excited
is
to
the very first
continue
interview I ever
and to see
did
what would
was
happen in
was
2
the
and 3. I think
Face Off
Oren
crew, and the
and
very
Katie
next
were
one was
really,
Felicity, or was Felissa.
really
Oh
excited
my
about the
gosh.
characters.
Yeah.
So
and just
Felissa
seeing where it could
was
go.
this dream come
Yeah.
true for me, and the next time that
Yeah,
I
so
got
it
to
was
see her
very
at
welcoming,
Sinister,
and
she
they
recorded
invited
a happy
us
birthday
to
message
have
to my brother,
people
making a video
Oh
presence
my
and, you know,
on the
think of our character and come up with
the
ideas.
8x10 that I bought to get autographed by
Now,
her.
Yeah.
Because
the
the
marketing
last
for the
time I
first
brought
one
him an autographed picture,
was,
he
a
thought I was
prime
lying
example
to him,
of
and he
somebody
didn't
taking
believe
the
me that it was a
idea
real
of
autograph.
where the world
Oh
is
my
with social
gosh.
media
So
and with,
Felissa did a whole
email
video with
campaigns
the
and viral
picture
video
as she
campaigns and things like
autographed
that,
it, saying, "This
and
is for
taking it from a
you,"
movie
to
that,
prove that it was
if I
her.
remember correctly, was only in
That
a
is
couple of dozen
That's
incredibly
awesome.
theaters
sweet.
And
to
so
nationwide
it's
in that
moments like
campaign.
that, and it's
As an
stuff
actor
like
who finished the film at
after
this
my
point,
stroke,
how
Angela,
was your
David,
reaction
and
sort of
Nathan,
watching that
all
campaign
from
happen again in front of you?
Leslie Vernon.
Leslie Vernon, all reached out to me separately
Oh,
to see how I was doing after my stroke. After this surgery that just happened in December that I made it through, I had several messages from Brian O'Halloran
Oh my
seeing
God.
how I was doing and if I was acting again and what I was working on next. And I'm like, what? These are amazing people, and they're taking time. To this day, David Stevie still will just randomly drop me a message going, "Hey, thought of you when I saw this." I'm like, what the? Why do
That's
you have
incredible.
time to think of me? And they're just terrific people, and I love them.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like,
Yeah. So I think that's fantastic.
magical
And,
and awesome to kind of watch
you know,
it
I
just
with
kind of
this panel,
explode
I think
and,
of
you know, so there was never
Katie
a
in
moment where I
particular,
was like,
because she made it a
oh, this is gonna be
point
a big thing.
as we
It
were
was like I was really in
circulating
the moment
through
watching it
the
get bigger and bigger and going, wow,
through the hall
wow,
where the
very
tables
cool.
were,
Really cool.
celebrities'
Did
tables were.
everybody here? Did
Every
anybody
time I would
hit the
go
demand
come
button
by, she would
on
make it
those
a
first
Yeah,
point to
thanks, guys.
engage me
I
in some kind of
remember
conversation.
vividly seeing the
So
first
near the
trailer I
end
ever
of
saw
the
for Paranormal Activity had
convention,
no scenes from the movie.
as
It
I
was
was
all
walking
audience
past,
reaction.
she
Blacklight,
motioned for
just
me to
saying,
come
just
over,
saying,
and I
do
had
you
told
wanna
her
see
my
what
daughter was
they're
a
reacting
great
to?
big fan of
Hit
hers.
demand and watch it in
And
your
she
area.
said, "I'm going to
And
give
I
you
thought that
something
was
for your
one
daughter."
of the most brilliant
So
things
she
I'd ever
signed
seen,
this
and it made me
personalized picture
to see
of
the
her
movie.
for
And
my
poor Nellie
daughter.
was so adamant about
And she didn't
not
have to do
putting
that.
all the good
You know what I mean?
the
It
scary
was
stuff
just
in the
something
trailer.
that
He was
she
like,
did
"There's
because
not
she
much
was
to
a
put in a
sweet
trailer, and if you put
person
the
and
stuff
she
in the
had,
trailer that's gonna scare people, there's
she
not
was
gonna be a
thinking
movie."
of
So
me,
please, please,
you
please
know,
don't. And
Yes.
so they thought outside the box,
instead of,
and I
being
just
self-centered.
like,
And I just thought that was the sweetest thing.
So,
And I
speaking of
think that's
scary
something
scenes throughout the
about Sinister
franchise,
as a
is
con
there
and about
something
Horrific
that
Network
latches
as
on,
a panel
especially with
team.
having
I
the
will talk
improv,
to
the
people at
freedom of
other
improv, not knowing
cons, and
possibly
it
what you're
doesn't
going into until
feel
you
like
get
that
there. Is there
Right.
moments
for
that
the
stick out for you
celebrities.
that
And when it feels like
as
that
a
for
person,
all
not
of
as
the
an actor, but as
audience
a
and
person, you're
all
like,
of
okay, I
us,
don't know
the
about this
celebrities can't
situation.
Oh,
help
yeah.
but feel good.
Anything stick out?
How many celebrities do
You
you
go first.
think
I mean,
would put
I don't. You seem like you got a good
Sinister
answer.
on one of their favorite con lists
I got
because of
okay.
how they were
So
treated by all of us?
hi.
Yes.
I would say most of them, dude.
You know the
Yeah.
counters,
Yeah.
cupboards.
And that's
Well,
not a
Okay, so
toot our own horn
Ashley-
thing,
The
but
day of the cupboards,
that's
I
how
was
you
told,
get
and
better
I was
questions
going in
and
every
better
day and working
answers
with
out of
the,
people.
you know,
Ashley, what
we
did
were
Billy
very
Zane
intimate
say?
with the crew because one of
Right?
the coolest things about this
He
movie,
wants
being
to
a part
come
of it,
back.
was that it wasn't
and
mostly
Billy
about
all
Zane
me.
said that
All the
he
questions were
loves
actually done
it.
by
He
the
wants to
crew.
He
come
wants his
back.
So the
sister to
crew
come.
had set up the
And he wants his sister to come with him, but like you guys, I mean, my story's a little bit different. I watched horror here and there growing up, but I wasn't like a diehard fan. I actually didn't become super into horror until I got with my husband, and he lighted all of that fire about 10 years ago. But since then I've grown into it. So meeting a lot of these people, some of them I had seen their movies when I was younger and growing up, and some of them I haven't seen until within the last 10 years. And so it's kind of different for me, whereas like Rachel True from The Craft, I watched that growing up. It was one of my favorite movies. So
Oh,
that was
yeah.
really awesome for me. When we had Jaye out, and you know, we were doing the whole Clerks panel, and we were doing the interviews with them. That was, I've said this a million times, Snoochie Boochie from that movie was my very first email address on AOL. So that was a huge thing for me. Panel went a little bit different than I wanted it to, but I'm very glad that with the first question that I had that I stumped him, and it still blows my mind to this day that I was able to stump him in a panel because he's done so many.
Yeah, but that set the tone for everything the rest of that panel. He thought he was in control because of how he was doing things. He kept turning and looking right back at you and trying to get your feedback on stuff he was saying because you showed him you knew your shit.
What if I go down the stairs?
Yeah, so that was really cool. You know, I've met some really great people. I've met some people and moderated people that I didn't even know anything about, which intrigues me to learn more about them because I'm a very curious person. So if I spend time with you or you're in something and I meet you, I want to put my everything into it. I want to see what you've done, and I want to learn the knowledge that everybody else has that I might be missing out on. So
in the first
faced off with V. Neal, getting to do that women's panel when we were at the Robaline Center. That was huge for me because V. Neal was someone that was on my bucket list to meet, and I had met her at a couple of conventions in Southern California, but not to have that rapport one-on-one conversation and to just really enjoy that discussion.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's really cool for me. And then to see someone who you're a fan of in like their everyday work, but you didn't really know their full connection to horror, makes me sound horrible to this world, but like Tyler Levine, I didn't know that, you know, he had his own horror movie, like he was in all of that. I just knew him from New Amsterdam and as Iggy and the guy that he was, and so it was really cool for me to talk to him.
He
I got
gives
to
the greatest hugs, doesn't he, Ashley?
Oh my God, the best hug. I got to have the greatest conversation with him. We talked about so many things. I had so much of his time. He sent a personal message to my mom because my mom's a diehard. The only reason why she watched that show. And, you know, it's just been really cool to see my husband interact with people, to see my son now be able to come. He's 3.5 now, and to interact with these characters, and they just like absolutely love him and want pictures with him. V. Neal had to get a picture with him because he was just so cute.
He's adorable.
We met
That
during
stuff
the
like that's
callbacks
super
and
cool for me.
which I remember because I was
It's
in a-
mind blowing
That's
that
probably why you
I'm
don't
even
remember as
in
much,
this
'cause you
world,
probably
that
weren't.
being a part of the
But I
horror
just remember
community and being
they
a
had
co-owner
us
of a
sit down
haunt
in that living
and
room,
doing the
the,
things
like,
that I've
front
done, the
living room with,
experiences
like, the
that we've
big
had,
ceiling, and she
that
had
my
a
husband and I have
chat
had,
room
that
where
I've
we
had on my
left us
own.
alone, and we kind of came
It's
up with
crazy
nothing.
the doors that this
there
has
you go.
opened and where
So
we
got
have
to work
come,
with that,
and
which was really
especially
great.
for
And
our
then
group. I mean, our group has
Molly
just
came from
grown
Molly
and
actually came
manifested,
from
and we have done
theater,
some
and so
amazing
did
things
Brian.
and have accomplished so
So,
much as a group that
you know,
it's
Brian's from Chicago
fantastic.
and Molly came from New York, and then I come from
Jay,
Seattle.
Ashley
And
was
so
talking,
we
and
all
you were
kind of
talking
approached our
about
characters in that
Tyler
regard.
Levine.
We spent a lot of time together, the three of us
And I
outside.
just
Yeah, and
remember
then we
being
improv'd
blown
history
away by
for the
your
three of us
interview
together.
of him,
Just that was
because
our
you
rehearsal
guys
process.
had
I mean, there's
such
nothing when you're
an
evolving the script
amazing
and
rapport.
changing things and trying things. There's not a lot
He
to
was
rehearse
talking
because
to
don't have
you
a
as a
script.
peer,
That's set
as
in
an
stone.
There is no,
actor.
yeah, there's no
You
rehearsals
guys
like
were
that.
interacting
rehearsal of
together,
situations.
but
It's
you
not-
could see the
Yeah.
the
We keep bringing
enjoyment
up
in
theater
his face.
background for you.
And
Oh, thank you.
Before you
I'll
said you
never
came to LA
forget at
and
the end
there
of
was an
that
audition and you
panel,
went forward for
when
it.
everything's done,
I
said
had an
and
acting full
done,
life, and I did it in high
he
school,
must
and I
have
went to
hugged you
Southern
for
Methodist
2 minutes.
University in Dallas,
Oh, yeah.
Texas.
I mean,
and
he
Yeah.
really
got a BFA
appreciated
and moved to LA,
the
and
the
my very
the
first
way
year
that you
auditioned
brought
for
out
Paranormal.
I've noticed
you know,
this in
his
conversations I've had
personality
panels with lots
and
of
what
people
he
We-
who've
had
been
to
in the
say
horror
and how
industry.
you
An
facilitated
ongoing link that I
um,
see on
you know, his presentation
characters on the
as
actors
as a
really
celeb. And I
resonate
just,
with
I
people
always
is the
remember
fact that you
that.
have
And
a
I
theater
thought that's the
background.
moment, those are
That
the
it wasn't
moments that
just
are so
we were
important
film
about
people
being
all the way
a
through. It seems to
moderator,
be that a
is
lot
when
of
you
people,
really
some of the
do
actors
make
that are
that
here
personal
at
connection with
this
somebody. And maybe
con in
it's
particular
fleeting, maybe you never,
all had
you know,
strong
you
theater
don't keep in
backgrounds. Do you feel that
contact,
Yeah.
but for that
helped
one
both of you?
moment,
I mean,
you
it
guys were
certainly helped.
incredibly
It certainly
close.
helped
And
me.
that was really moving for me.
In
I
Paranormal
was
movies, but
very
especially in
lucky
the first
that
one of
the
just
joy
knowing how to
of
collaborate,
Sinister
knowing
is
how to
that
like
it
have
is
my hands
this
in everything, and
smaller
when it's me,
gem, and
because
so I
oftentimes an
got to
actor in
spend
film
most of
will
that
have a
weekend
job
with
and it's just
Tyler,
fun to
actually.
write, smile, say lines, and then get out of the
Anytime that
way.
there weren't
And
people
that
in
can
line
be
and I was by
huge business,
him, he
and
would
that's great
shout
too.
my
But
name
a
and I would
writer,
come
you're
over and
always
just
you're the
start
crew,
chatting
you're
with him
everything. You're
for
always
Yeah.
doing all of
sometimes
it. And
15,
so for
20 minutes at a
me, it
time.
was
And just,
like
we had lunch
such a
together one of the
joy to come
days.
into a
And on
filming
his way
experience
out,
and
he was
realize like
trying to
you're not
buy
just an actor,
gifts
you're a
for
part,
some
but you're kind of a
people.
producer and
And
kind
he
of
goes, there's
kind of a
no
writer
way
and
I'm
kind
going
of
to
a crew
find
person. And
anything for my
kind of I've
kids
got a feeling these
here.
two guys
And I
who
said,
are
wait a minute. And I
filming
walked
because
him
I got
right
the
over
keys
to
to stuff
those,
they're doing. So it
the
was like,
horror
so
cookies.
that was a really
Oh,
great
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
sort of
And he
family
bought like
community
3
aspect of it
cookies
too.
for each one of his kids of
I
different
I also
characters
think
because he was like, there's
Oh.
stuff that's
Special
not horror here. This
these
is amazing.
movies
So he bought
in
a bunch of
particular,
stuff for his
you know,
kids and he
Blair
goes,
Witch
now I
kind
got
of
to make
started
sure
that. I
not
really think that
eat them on the
Paranormal
flight
started in a
home.
different direction. And that's
And
one of the reasons
uh,
I think I
he
really brought
he
into that
messaged me
mission,
like a week
because
later
I'm
saying,
not
hey, this band I
necessarily
was
the
talking about,
natural
this is the
horror
link to
girl.
them. I forgot
You
to
know, all
send
due
it to you.
respect, but my
So the
boobs aren't
fact
big
that just
enough,
a
and
week
I'm
went
just
by and he sent me
I
stuff
play the girl
was
next
I still
just
door. I
remember
do.
that.
amazing.
And
And
Yeah, that's
he is
great.
so great
movies,
on Instagram.
because
If you
they
follow
have
him
such a good theater
anytime he
background in the
posts
first
stuff,
one,
if
and
you
because
comment,
of
he
the
he's one of
team
those
that you guys
celebrities that
created,
tries to get to
they're really based in
everybody
character.
to say
That's
thank
fine.
you or say
And
hello.
so
And
when the
he is
few
just a
scares
dear. I
happen,
love him dearly.
you're
Yeah.
so involved in the character
Well, it was
that
an
you're so
amazing,
much more concerned for the
amazing
scare. I mean, I
panel.
know with our movie,
He is
I
one of
will.
the
those
time
people that
everyone
at
was
the
like,
end of that
that
panel,
nothing
like at
better
the
happen
end
to
of
that
this
dog.
one too, I remember
Nothing
that. This
better
was
happen
one
to
of those
that
first
dog,
times that I
man.
got to
And
the end of a
it's because you're
panel.
so invested in the kids and Molly
Katie
and the family
and
and stuff.
Sprague and
So
Tyler did the same
I
thing. I
do
got
think,
to
and I
the end of
also
the
think
panel. I saw Jimmy
I
flash
do
me
a
the
lot of
time,
kind
and I'm
of
like,
intense drama stuff where people
I
die
feel like
or
I
get
just
murdered
started.
or I
I
die
feel
Yeah.
like
or
I
something.
just began this
If you
conversation.
can
Like we
do
just
such high
introduced and sat
intense
down. This is no
circumstance
time at all.
portrayals, you you still
That's
want
a
to
pretty
connect
common
with the audience,
experience.
an emotional
Yeah.
connection.
I will say this to
They
compliment
have
you,
that experience
Jay,
as well, and so
is
you have to
just looking at the
have a
two
craft
of
of some
them.
sort.
Sprague was into it
Anyway,
from the
it's
get go.
just seemed to have worked.
But Katie, like I was
I like
saying,
that
like,
you
hey,
brought
get
up
off
the
your
comparison
phone.
to Blair Witch,
She
because
almost
quite
came
often the
across
first
at the
Paranormal
beginning
and
a
the
little
first Blair Witch
standoffish,
gets
but
combined
you look
She
at her
was.
now.
quite often. They're
You
very
look at
different.
her now. She's
But they
into
do
it.
have that
So
same
over the
skeletal
course,
structure as
Yeah.
far
you know, of
as
15,
you're
20
going
minutes,
to
you have
see
gained
real
her
event
interest
take place is basically
and
what
her
they're trying to do. A lot of
appreciation, and
films
now she is being
attempted
more
that
involved in the
in
conversation.
between, and
That
attempted
is
it
the
after,
skill of a good
and
moderator.
a majority of them failed.
We'll get to
drastically.
Tyler Labine.
What is it that you feel where along the way
or not
Blair Witch
Tyler
sets up this
Labine.
idea?
What is
No.
his
And then we
name?
have how many
Is it
years
Tyler?
between Blair Witch
No.
and the first Paranormal?
Who was Sabretooth?
That suddenly,
Tyler Maine.
Okay, we're
Tyler
gonna try
Maine.
this
We'll get to that
same
panel,
type of thing again,
and we'll tell that
and where
story
at that point, you
on
already
this
had fans
show
of horror movies
eventually.
going, we
And
don't ever want another one.
I don't
of
care
these
how many
footage
times
again.
Drew
But
denies
then
it.
your
Like
franchise
what
makes
happened
it,
before that
we
panel
want
happened.
This.
And
What is it that you
going
feel
into
was
that
the capturing
panel,
moment? What was it that
I was
that
pissing my pants
you got it?
because he was
The only thing
not
I
a
can
happy
figure out
man.
is
And
Warren and Mika
to be
are
able
really
to
committed
pivot
Turn that around.
cutting
Yeah,
into
to be able to
corners.
pivot that
So we filmed the
conversation
scene and we couldn't figure out why we had the
in a
camera and we
matter
just didn't do
of
that scene.
seconds
Or we had to figure out why don't they live in the house.
is
We had to figure out all of these
a
things
skill
so
that not very
it wasn't
many
any,
people
like,
have.
we won't worry about that part.
People,
anything that
I
would,
think,
that would take away
underestimate
from the
the
realism
skill
of what we're doing. And, I mean,
of
we would sit and
being
go,
able
well,
to
what about
interview
this?
a
No, that's
complete
not good
stranger.
enough. Or what about this?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and
with
we would just sit there and
having known them
brainstorm
for
until we, just to our very best,
you know,
could find
5 to
the
10
most
minutes
believable
beforehand.
situation and
If
then
that.
react to it.
That's
Some of
where
them aren't even at the
research.
table.
That's
Yeah.
where research is so important, Jim, because you
I
had
was gonna
done
say it's respect
your
for
homework.
audience.
Yeah.
So
And
you
that's what I think you're
knew that
describing.
he had this
Because
real
for me,
interest
I
in
came into
wrestling and
this
was
as a
involved
fan,
in wrestling.
not as
And
somebody
man,
who's
as soon
creating
as
it
you
like
brought
they
that
were,
up, you were golden.
And
Yeah.
watching the
Yeah.
film, I just remember thinking,
His
It's
whole
being the one
attitude, his
intelligent.
whole
'Cause I'm
demeanor
a sci-fi
changed.
geek.
It's
like
that.
I'm sorry. I'm not
Oh,
a horror
sorry.
geek.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
a
go.
geek. I'm so sorry.
I was just gonna
But
say it's the
is that
exact same
okay?
thing
Is
with
that
with
cool?
Jay. As soon as
Yeah.
Jay started asking
Any of
questions
them? Good.
about
See?
the sisterly
You've got company.
relationship
I'm wearing
and
a
the
Jana Solo
feelings
t-shirt.
attached to what
Just
they
saying.
did in
Okay.
this franchise,
So, yeah, it's like old.
Katie
You have
pricked
to
up
read
and
the books.
started
Anyway,
engaging
but,
more. So it is like
yeah. So
if
one
you
of my
can
favorite things
bring,
about sci-fi is mythology.
kind of
and
figure
when
out
they-
through the
when I'm
conversation a
watching
way
it and I know
to
that a producer or a
punch
writer knows
through
I'm
to what
intelligent
they
enough
care
that
about
they
the
give me
most.
the real backstory.
That's
And
really
one of the things I
when
think about your movie and
the
Blair
best
Witch
comes out. And
is
what
that
you were
both
talking
of
about,
them-
Jay, that's one time you look at your
they
watch and
both
you're like, oh my God,
expected
it's over.
the
Yeah.
audience to
Well, on
be
this
horror
one
fans, to
specifically,
truly
I knew
understand, to
how to
know
get
what
Katie
the shark should
involved
be like, to know
because of the fact that I
what
knew she had a
the
theater
easy plot
background.
out was.
And
Instead,
I have a
you
theater
did the easy
background as
out.
well, and
And you
so
made a
I
great
knew I
movie.
could try to
That's
connect with her that
respect the
way.
audience.
But I also knew from that that means that a lot of times when you meet actors that have
Yes.
a theater background first before they ever try to get into film, even not one that's congruent with film, a lot of them do the work a little deeper. So that's why when I was able to talk to her about that connection, I knew that was something they had to have done a lot of work together on, and that was a way to get them talking and me to just lean back. And so that was what I wanted, because I wanted to see that sister bond show back up on stage. And then from then on out, the rest of the interview was going to be golden. I could just let them go if I really wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
funny
I-
because
I,
your hand trick that you talked
That's
about in the
my
last
favorite horror
episode,
film growing up.
you just did a
Here's the funny
couple
thing,
seconds ago.
always in
I
search
did.
of a
I'm a
movie that would
dick.
scare me
I'm
while I was
such an
watching it, and it
asshole.
would also scare me when I went home, and it would also scare
You're
me when I
not.
was
It works. It's not an asshole thing. I think it gives people that, oh, you know what? They saw on my face that I had a question and I was like, I don't know if I want to ask it, but it kind of makes them ask it. Like, hey, you know what? You saw that I was thinking and I was processing a question and you called me out, but you didn't call me out specifically. You pointed in that general direction. So like we said, it's an awesome Jedi mind trick for those that aren't 100% comfortable asking questions to them.
Something
fucking
else
did
that
it
I've been
again.
doing before the
Lot of-
panel now, that I've been really liking, that it's been getting the audience, I feel, loosened up. Because a lot of times I was noticing that we'd be sitting there and they'd walk in and sit down and start going through their bag of the stuff that they bought, and they'd just be talking to each other about what they're excited about watching, or if it's a couple, somebody would be turning to the other one and going, wait, what movie are these people from again?
But I haven't ever
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I would start just talking to the audience and asking them, what did you buy? Show us, show and tell time. Everybody loves show and tell. Let's do it.
Sound a little deep.
And then I started asking them about what movies they were interested in, the people that we were talking to, or what are their favorite movies, whatever it was. And it got them already
when I brought
loosened up.
my now husband.
So when I
home
did do
to
the
my small
point
town
or
in
ask
Grayden,
for
which is like
questions,
5,000 people,
they were already
we
used to
went
talking to me.
where my
So
brother's buried
at this point, they're
in
not
Tombstone,
asking
and
the
I was like,
celebrity a question; they're talking
I
to
need you
me,
just to go over there.
and they're already used to
I
it.
just
So
need you
they
to
can go
introduce
ahead and
yourself
ask.
to him, and if it's
So that whatever
insane and
nervous they
stupid,
might have about
just get
talking to
back
the
in the car or
celebrity is
whatever.
gone. They're
My
not
husband
talking
is
to
not
them.
like someone who believes in
What if we,
Yeah.
we did a lot of that in October and it worked out really well, just to kind of get the audience in the group. What if we did
right?
like
So
4 or 5 trivia questions about the next guest that's coming up, or the movie that they're in, or projects
Yeah.
that they've worked on? I mean,
weird.
it's a good way to get audience engagement and to really make sure that the audience knows which panel they're in.
He's like, yeah.
I got no
'cause-
problem
okay.
just living
And
in
then
the
that
panel
night
room
at
all
1 p.m.,
day
he
and just
actually
doing
had a
warm up
nightmare.
like I did in
He woke up,
October.
and I was like, are you
Yeah.
having a nightmare? He said, no, I'm not. I don't know what it is.
It
And
really
he said
made
my
that
brother
transition
come to him
seamless.
in
You know what I mean? Because you get the people that sit in there and they're sitting for back-to-back panels, and it kind of breaks it up. You're
Well,
getting the
there was
new
some people
people
that
in.
stayed for back to back that weren't going to. They just got comfortable and liked us.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
my
think
brother
that's
just
important
let him
too.
know, like,
The first few panels,
okay, man,
I
you're
remember
cool.
going
Oh,
in
it's like it's
and,
cool.
you
but
know, being
I'm
in
gonna
there
scare
and
you
people were
late at
starting to
night.
come in and it's like 10 minutes
That's my
before the
little
panel
surprise, a little brother.
and I'm just sitting there
So that's my
Yeah.
first
because I wasn't sure what my role was
Red shirt,
and
yes.
you know, I was kind of preparing for the panel. I'm thinking the last time I think was the first time that I actually started to engage people before and started to have
October.
conversations with people in the audience. So there wasn't that awkward period of time before the
Yeah.
panel actually started. And it was really, it relaxed me for the for the actual panel itself.
Yeah.
And I think it opened them up too. A lot of
Very much so.
times, and I think we all know this, a lot of people that come
You mean
to a
with, like,
horror
scares
convention
and
are very introverted, except
Some
for
of the smaller after
this
effects
is
that
the
were
way
added
that
to
they
the
let
scenes.
it out.
I
They
mean,
either
Oh, yeah.
dress
no,
up
I mean,
or
a lot of
they,
the stuff on the first one,
you know, they find
you
some
figured
way
out as
to
we went, and so,
express the
for instance,
feelings
there's
that are
the shadow that
inside.
goes across the door.
So, like
you
Jaye,
know,
when you were saying that you
I
pointed to
think
somebody in the
Lauren
audience as a
saw it
trick,
later and was like,
you're
oh, I can
opening
digitally
them
put it in,
up
and that would be
and
a cool
giving
thing for
them
them
a
to
reason
notice, and so it was
to join.
sort of happened with
So,
some of
and
the
you
base.
you know, you have to
some
know
of the
your
stuff we knew, and
audience
then some of the
too.
stuff was
Your audience, a lot
stuff
of
we kind of
people
discovered as
are,
we
like I
went.
said, they're introverted. You
Yeah.
know, except
Oh,
for a
yeah.
horror convention.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
their
and but that just like what we've talked about on
Yeah.
countless episodes on Horrific Network, we've all talked about how when we were all younger, this was that secret little thing that we would pass around and talk about, and that's
Right.
what everybody in the audience is this is our secret
right
little
on.
thing, and we're
Right.
welcoming them to realize it's not a secret.
Yeah.
We're all in this room together.
Yeah, working with Kiefer.
Right.
I love
Yeah.
Kiefer. I'm a big fan of the Kiefer
Right.
Club.
I think the thing that I love about the guests that come to Sinister is you see the clear horror fans. They're the ones that are head to toe. They're there first. They're in line. They're ready to go. They get all their celebrity autographs and then they hang out and enjoy the vibe.
Oh yeah.
And then you get the people that look like me who come in a little bit more normal, don't really like have a deep love for it, but have a love for it.
Doesn't matter who you
And
are.
we have some knowledge, but we're kind of quiet and we don't know how to talk about all things horror because we're not fully delved into everything as far as deep as like, you know, like Tubi or any of those streaming services. And but you have this huge array, and it's probably one of the most welcoming communities that you could ever get to be a part of. It doesn't
Yes.
matter if you're super introverted, super extroverted, if you have a lot of knowledge, if you don't have very much knowledge, you are loved and welcomed to come as you are, who you are, and share that love with everybody. And that's what's really great about Sinister too, and which makes me proud to be a moderator and to be a part of it, because we get to see that. We get to see people come in and not necessarily have anybody with them. And then by the end of the convention, they have 3 or 4 friends and they're walking around and chit-chatting and getting autographs and shopping together.
Oh, yeah.
And it's super cool.
I'm
Exactly.
name drop
Basically the
somebody
same
that
thing,
both Jimmy and I have
being
interviewed
super comfortable with your
separately,
favorite people and
Heather
being at
Langenkamp.
Thanksgiving. So, like, if you feel
She
like you're at
said
Thanksgiving, you're
when
not
I
real and
talked to
you're
her
not
about her
normal. If you feel like
documentary,
you're with your best friends,
I am
okay, you're into
Nancy.
it, you know?
She said that
I
what she
do a lot
always
of
loved about the
imagination work
horror
with scary
community
stuff.
is
When
that
we
it's
need to
like a
do it, like,
swimming
I'll
pool.
I'll
You're going to
imagine
have
specters
fans that are going to stay in the
ghosts or
shallow
anything
end
like that. I'll do a
because
lot of
it's safer
magic.
there for them because that's as the
Because
level of
imagining
swimming
the
they can
demon
do.
itself isn't going to do it for me.
And then you're going to
I
have
was
those
gonna do it for
people that
me,
are
but
going to
the
be doing
stuff with the
cannonballs
cages
in the
killed me.
deep end because
I
it
mean,
doesn't
I was
matter for
scared.
them.
It
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
matter
And
what you
everywhere
thought
in
was gonna
between is
happen,
just
it was
as
like,
valid
and they
because
took
you're
great
all
care
in
of
the
the
same
kids, but it
pool.
was that stuff was
That's a pretty cool breakdown
That
for
is,
that.
that was just terrible.
That was Heather's.
That was
That's not
very
mine.
scary.
That was something that she said that I was like,
Wow.
from here on out, I'm always going to picture the
yeah,
horror community as when I talk to somebody and they start telling me the movies that they like, if I notice that they're all from the last 10 years,
We
oh,
asked that earlier.
they're in the
Great to know,
shallow
yeah.
pool.
Yeah,
That's fine. Maybe
I
they
think
just
the
don't know how
ending
to swim
that's
yet.
in theaters, the one where the
Or
character doesn't
maybe they're
die,
I'm just
comfortable
is
there.
the most effective.
I'm a
Yeah.
doggy paddler.
But I
Then maybe
also
that's
have
what
a
it is.
soft
Maybe
place
they're
in my
getting
heart
to the
for
middle of the pool, but
for
that's
the one that
great.
we
I
came
don't
up
need to
with
force them
so
in the
many years
deep
ago.
end. Why would I want them to drown?
I'm glad we used the one we did.
For sure.
I'm with her.
I love it.
I've
As
only
soon as
seen
she
the one
said that, I'm
the first
like,
one in
that
theaters, so
light
I
bulb.
love that
Thank you.
ending,
That was
but,
genius.
I didn't watch it till I was on my third callback for the movie, and then I had a nightmare. I ate my husband. So.
So, Jay,
That
going
ending
back
worked
and looking at this panel,
Now,
is there just a
that
specific
brings
moment
me,
in this
how often
panel
have
that
you've
just sticks out
obviously
in your
seen
head?
the film, both of you. Have you seen the entire franchise? Both of you continue to watch.
There's
Have you seen it
two at
since?
least that I remember that I think I'll always
I
remember.
saw 3
The
in a
first
movie theater,
time, like Jimmy was
and the
talking
guy
about
next to me.
Katie seemed
This
a
is all
little
real.
like she
Okay,
wasn't really
so I
into it,
went
and that's
to, and it's
fine
my
because
now
not
husband
everybody's
and a
going to
couple
be.
friends, and we
I've
sat in
had
the movie theater,
interviews
and
with
this guy
some
next to
people,
me
and I'm not going to
looks
name
over at me,
names,
and he's like,
that
"Hey man,
did not want to
did you
talk to
hear
me at
about the girl
all,
from the
and then
second one?
a
She
year or
really
two
died."
goes
And I
by
was
and they
like,
talk to
"She
somebody else
did?"
on this
And
panel,
I just like,
and they were in love.
I was like, I'm just
So
gonna totally go
great.
with this, man. And
Sometimes
I was
my
like, she
vibe's just
did.
not what
She
somebody
did
wants to
really.
talk
He's like,
about.
yeah, totally.
But
He's like, yeah,
I
and
remember
she really lived. I
exactly
don't know,
that the
like I don't know
moment
where
that
she
I
lives. I was like,
talked
oh
about
yeah, and we just kept
the
talking
work
about
that they did
and then
about
the
the
movie started, and I
sisterhood,
think
and
in
she
3
looked up at
we
me,
show up kind
and
of
I looked
like
right in her
halfway in the
eyes,
show. Some point in the beginning,
and
he looked over at me and he's like,
when I saw Paranormal Activity, I had a bit of a crush on
and I
Katie
was like,
because of her eyes. And so then when
Well, you
she's
could
suddenly
take
staring
advantage
right
of
at me with those eyes, I'm
and
like,
it was
oh
Yes, she
God,
died.
okay. Catch my breath for a second. I keep
it was
forgetting I'm
pretty
at
great.
work.
Right now, some guy in LA
So
is sitting there
I
going,
remember
"Man,
that
I saw
moment,
this
and
movie.
then I just
I was
remember
talking to a ghost for like a
Sprague's
half hour
energy
before. It was
is
so weird."
just infectious. That like she is this
I've seen the first
happy,
one
bouncy
so many
person,
times
and
that
every
I realized
time
we were
that
editing
somebody would
together,
ask a
I've
question
seen
and she would get a laugh
most of
from the
them. I still
audience,
want to try it.
the
I'll show
people
you
around
pictures
the
and
person that asked the
not much after
question
that. It's sort
wanted
of
to ask the next
when you're in it,
question
it's like
because they wanted to
watching a
feel
memory or
that
something like
laughter.
that. So I don't ever like
yeah.
Yeah.
and
So
forget
yeah,
it.
her
But
energy was just
certainly enjoyed the
infectious. I could see why she keeps working so much because I guarantee you it's because other people say, "Oh, you need somebody to do this part? I have a friend that I worked on this last project. Let's call Sprague."
You know, it might have been part Katie's more subdued manner may have been partially due to that because Sprague is
You
this
mean
high
specifically horror films or any
energy
kind of indie film?
person and has this, you know,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
her credits are immense.
Yeah. Well, Katie's
She's
also from Texas, and a lot of
yeah,
Southern women are a little
I
walled.
love indie
Not
film.
a bad thing, but a little
Not
walled
that I
off,
would
and
turn down
that's
a big
fine.
Hollywood blockbuster.
It just,
yeah,
as a
totally
moderator,
But
we all know we have to
indie
find
film
a way
is
past
I've
that
been making a lot
sure,
because
of
we only
projects
have
lately, short
45
films. I'm
minutes.
developing a feature,
sure.
with that same
So
sort of
You
we have
you
maybe
have
5
like
minutes beforehand and 45 minutes.
mentality of we're all
Right.
you have like
kind of
5
out there
minutes
do it
to crack the
together.
code
Do you remember
to
Brian
make
Layson? He
it
was on the
work.
crew.
Yeah.
Brian Layson's
So,
a good
like
friend of mine
Charlie
who
said,
started.
the
He was
more research
one of
we
the
figure
not on the
out,
crew, but he
the
was,
more we can find.
one of the,
Oh, I can.
I forget his
Andrew
title, but
Divoff,
he
I
was
can
there
talk
every
to him about
day
his
for
brewing
PA2
company
in
because I
3
know
years.
it
Right.
just went under, but
And
he's
now
an
he
avid
is writing and
fan of
directing.
at-home
He did a movie
brewing
called
and
Dust
convincing
Storm,
other people to get started in
that
it.
I started
let's
it's
talk about that.
beautiful. And so it's so cool to see people.
And as soon as I did that, his whole body relaxed.
So he and I every once in a
Right.
while have like
So, and he was a joy to talk to anyway, and we could have just stayed on just talking business. But the second I brought up the brewing, he was willing to talk to the audience more. He opened up to me more. He wanted to answer different questions a different way. So I threw a lot of those questions out in the middle of the panel. I do that the whole time that I'm like, I stopped writing down questions now. You look at my stuff, you'd never be able to run a panel off of my notes.
Rad, dude.
A friend of mine.
I've seen your
Logan,
notes,
was just
and I was
super,
like,
super
this
fun. It
scares
was,
me.
you know,
Ah.
Yeah.
people going to film really, but
As they should. They're
really
frightening
fans of our woman
notes.
in
They're
her
stupid,
early
but they make
30s whose
so much
life's falling
sense to
apart,
me.
but she's trying
And
valiantly
it's
to
great that it
help.
works.
It's kind
That's
of
like
comedic,
when
which
I
is
did
great.
Herb Duncanson's
And,
panel.
and a
You
good
know,
poem and some music
he's really into this
teaches
like
about
pirate life thing,
Yeah.
and it's all over his social media
developing a feature
that he
that's
goes and
set,
does this, and he's into it. And when I asked him about it, he was just like,
it's very female driven.
what do you know about that? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's all over your social media. So I researched it. Like, let's talk about it because it's clearly important to you. Like,
Well, and
let's put it together.
I remember you because you and I were talking. We chat. I don't think it's any secret to the listeners and the watchers that we chat beforehand about our interview tactics and what we want to do. And Ashley and I will chat quite often about while we're in the research project or process of it.
I just
And I remember you bringing that up, Ashley, and I'm like, run with that shit. That is
Dirty John.
that is brilliant. You already found that? No, go. That's the one way. Because the people that already do this for a living, if they have something in this that they play with, oh my God, they're going to talk about everything.
I am playing a woman named Tanya. I'm
It's
playing
just
his ex-wife.
finding that key and opening that door.
She's a real person.
Yep.
And she lives in Atlanta, and I've gotten to chat with her like 3
And
or 4
Charlie
times.
found
It's
it with
been
somebody that I
pretty
could not
incredible,
find
and
it
I'm
with.
really excited. So that'll start November 20th. Oh, and I kissed Eric.
Who's that?
Who was that?
Do you want me to name the name?
That starts November
Yeah.
25th
Yeah.
on Bravo. And
Barbara
it's Mary
Manalfi.
Vanna and Connie Britton
Oh,
and a bunch of other
Barbara.
fabulous people. And
Yeah,
me,
Barbara
and
was,
me.
she was
But I'm really proud of
absolutely
it,
a
and
sweetheart.
if you that would be
She
She
is.
was delightful at her table.
While we've got it, if
She
everybody
said
can give,
she would
amazing
answer
set of
any
applause
question,
for
was
Katie
very
Featherston.
excited to talk to me.
Sprague,
And then when I got to sit down with her, all she wanted to do was one word answers, and that was about it. And I couldn't crack the code. There was nothing about me that she found charming. There was nothing about me that she wanted to answer. And I was trying, and then finally I got her to open up a little bit, but it was time. It was at the end that I finally got her. So the next time she came around and Jemmy was like, okay, Charlie's doing Barbara Manalfi. I'm like, oh God, thank God. Oh, I didn't want to go through that again.
Well, that
She
was,
just wanted a taste of that classic Charlie.
that was the cyber.
Yeah.
That was the CyberCon, right?
Yeah.
That was the CyberCon that you did.
And I thought about it before, and I thought, you know, I think Abby had interviewed her too, right?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think Abby had interviewed her, and she had kind of a tough time with Abby. And so I was thinking, oh well, we'll just see how it goes. But she really, I enjoyed talking to her, and once we got going, she was not just single word answers, and she was schooling me on what giallo was, and
you got her laughing, you got her smiling. She was, if you were in the same room with her, she would have been constantly touching your arm throughout the entire question, because you had her eating out of the palm of your hands on just, and maybe it was a closer to life experience type thing. Maybe it was something about the fact that how you approach giallo and those questions. Maybe it was that where she was like, oh, I can lead you and teach you this. Maybe that's what it was. But whatever it was, she was 100% open and honest with your interview, where she was like, the answer is gray to me.
Well,
I told
hope
you I was going to give her a big Italian hug the next time I saw her, but I haven't seen her since. Yeah.
We got to make it happen. And hopefully we can give you guys an insight and teach you what it is to be a moderator for Sinister Creature Con over the course of this show. We will be back with a panel that I know Charlie was very excited to do, but was very meaningful to all of us. And I will get into why on that episode. But until then, man, if you want to watch the panel that we had playing during this conversation uninterrupted, that will be in the show notes, as well the link to sinistercreaturecon.com, because that is where you need to go to get your tickets to Sinister Creature Con for June 22nd and 23rd. I'm telling you guys, you don't want to miss it. There was a lot of questions, surrounding the lineup, and what has happened is one of the biggest lineups in Sinister Creature Con history. It is going to be massive. We hope to see you all there. If you do show up, we definitely hope that you will come by and visit us in the panel room. So stay tuned for more from us on the road to Sinister and even after, because this show's way too fun to not do for until I'm in the grave. So thank you all. For Charlie, Jaye, and Ashlei, stay sinister, everybody. And this